Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. Rahul Gandhi, in a lecture in Cambridge, says that his phones are tapped, there is Pegasus on his phone, and most importantly, he says this government under Narendra Modi is anti-democratic. It is suffocating the democracy of India. Now, here is the thing, that this whole matter of Pegasus had gone up to no less than the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court had asked all of these leaders, including Mr. Gandhi, to submit their phones for inspection. Mr. Gandhi chose not to, for whatever reason he did. And now, after the Supreme Court has dismissed that case, Mr. Gandhi says that democracy in India is under siege under Narendra Modi. The question is, this is a closed chapter. This is a chapter that was opened up by the Supreme Court, no less. And Mr. Gandhi, among other opposition leaders, chose not to give their phones for inspection to the Supreme Court. Now, to revive this whole debate about an intolerant India, a government that does not brook any criticism, how justified or how valid is that? And that too, coming at a time when India is hosting the G20 foreign ministers meeting and the NDA has secured substantial majorities and governments in the three northeastern states that went to polls just recently. But first, the story.
Negotiation that is actually coming under attack and under threat. We've also heard of the attack on minorities, the attack on the press.
Congress MP Rahul Gandhi's pointed attack on the Modi government. Weeks after completing his Bharat Jodo Yatra, Rahul Gandhi landed up at Cambridge University, claiming that democracy is under attack in India.
Here you can see that picture. That picture is taken in front of Parliament House. And that's where a whole bunch of opposition members of Parliament were just standing there talking about certain issues, and we were just locked up and put in jail. And that's happened 3 or 4 times, right? And it's happened relatively violently.
Rahul Gandhi also alleged that Israeli spyware Pegasus was being used to snoop into the phones of several political leaders, including him.
Large number of politicians have Pegasus on my phone, on their phone. I've been called by intelligence officers who tell me, listen, please be careful what you're saying on the phone because we are sort of recording this stuff. So this is a constant pressure that we feel.
The BJP hit back, accusing Rahul Gandhi of defaming India.
देश को बदनाम करने की ये साजिश बार-बार जो विदेशी धरती से होती है, कभी विदेशी दोस्तों के माध्यम से होती है, ये अपने आप में प्रश्न चिन्ह खड़ा करता है कि कांग्रेस का एजेंडा क्या है.
So is Rahul Gandhi simply walking into BJP's trap? Why put domestic politics above national interest?
While Rahul Gandhi is trying to revive this entire Snoopgate controversy, the Supreme Court drew the line on Pegasus last year. Rahul Gandhi claimed that Pegasus had been hacked into his phone, but the Supreme Court declared that as many as 29 phones were examined, but there was no conclusive evidence of Pegasus, the spyware, being put into it. Rahul Gandhi also alleged that it was not just him. There were several opposition politicians who had Pegasus on their phone, but the Supreme Court found in 5 phones, but that does not mean that it is Pegasus. Rahul Gandhi also claimed that intelligence officers had warned him to be careful while speaking on his phone, but the top court, the Supreme Court, had said that limited data makes it inconclusive to determine whether Pegasus was on people's phones. Now, whether they were snooped upon or not, Rahul Gandhi has stuck to certain themes when he has spoken at universities and other platforms abroad. For instance, he refers to the threats to the idea and the basic structure of the idea of India. He also alleges that important institutions, the Election Commission, CBI, Chief Vigilance Commissioner, etc., are being eroded. He also raises politics of polarization and claims that certain sections of society are being isolated and are being demonized. Now, here are some of the past instances of Rahul Gandhi targeting the Modi government when he was abroad, when he was on foreign soil. While addressing students at the University of California in 2017, he said the RSS and Prime Minister Modi were fiddling with the foundational structure of India. While addressing students at Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew University in 2018, he said that some people are using anger and violence to win elections in India. While speaking at an event in Germany in 2018, he claimed that exclusionary politics had created a platform for violence and hatred in the country. While addressing students at the London School of Economics in 2018, he said that for the first time, an organization is challenging the very concept and the idea of India. While addressing Indian Overseas Congress in London in 2018, Rahul Gandhi said that people are being discriminated against on the basis of caste and religion and are being marginalized by India. While addressing students at Cambridge University last year, he said that Congress is fighting to regain the idea of India while BJP is stifling India's voice. Now, Rahul Gandhi's critics come at a time when the Modi government has been facing brickbats from Western forces. In January, the BBC released a two-part documentary called India, the Modi Question, which targeted Prime Minister Modi for the 2002 Gujarat riots. The centre banned it from being screened on YouTube as well as other social media platforms. Then in February, billionaire investor George Soros raked up the Adani issue and claimed that it will spark a democratic revival in India and the Prime Minister will be answerable. And now we have Rahul Gandhi going to Cambridge and claiming that Indian democracy is under attack. So let me open this up to our panelists. Shehzad Poonawalla is here in our studios. He's the BJP national spokesperson. Supriya Srinath, Congress national spokesperson. Sanjay Jha, political analyst. Kailash Adhikari is political analyst and managing director. Supriya, let me start with you first. Mr. Gandhi goes abroad on foreign soil and says India's democracy is under attack. He says his phone is under Pegasus, and yet at the same time, the Supreme Court had asked for his phone to be surveilled, to be examined, and he said no. So then, what is the locus standi? What is the basis of him claiming that Pegasus is on his phone?
So, Zaka, a very good evening to you and my fellow panelists. I really appreciate the amount of research that has gone in to point out how many times Rahul Gandhi has spoken on foreign soil and how he has spoken about democracy. I'm presuming your team did not and must not have been left with time to find out similar instances of Mr. Modi speaking on foreign soil and essentially talking about and washing his dirty linen about domestic politics overseas. So I thought I'd do the needful because I was under the impression that Network 18 will perhaps not be able to show the bites of Prime Minister Modi. Just playing a small bite for you, and then we'll of course carry this discussion forward. With your kind permission, please. This is in Hindi, and I'm sure you'll bear with me.
अरे भगवान बचाए पता नहीं पिछले जन्म में क्या पाप किया हिंदुस्तान में पैदा
पिछले जन्म में क्या पाप किए हम हिंदुस्तान में पैदा हुए. We are cursed to have been born in India, and this is what the Prime Minister of this country told the Chinese audience in Shanghai in 2015. If that's acceptable to you and your viewer, then we should carry the discussion forward, because what Mr. Gandhi has said is essentially eulogizing the democracy in India, talking about the Indian values. He's talking about a world view where America and China are two superpowers and how India can find space in between and create a consensus and create dialogue. He is talking about how Indian democracy needs to be saved. So I don't know what objections that you and your team seem to be raising here. The BJP set aside.
I want to know from you, and in very clear terms, Supriya, how do you characterize Indian democracy being under attack? We had election results from 3 northeastern states yesterday. Just because your party has not done well or has not, been in a competitive position, that does not mean that democracy is under attack.
Yeah, I love how concerned you are about democracy. I wish you showed similar concern when guns are trained only against the opposition, when there is a 4-fold increase in ED cases since 2014, and 95% of those cases are against the opposition, when not a word is spoken against Adani, who's saddled with very grave corruption charges like stock manipulation and Benami money flowing through a web of shell companies. I wish similar concerns, both through gestures and voice and in spirit, were shown. But let me answer the question that you specifically asked on Pegasus, because I think this nation needs to know what he said. The Supreme Court had formed a committee to probe into the Pegasus charges because the elected government of the day decided to be brazen, not discuss it in Parliament, and chose to look the other way. The committee on record in the Chief Justice's court said that the government of the day did not cooperate, did not participate in fact finding. You don't think, being a shining example of the fourth pillar of democracy, the Indian media should question why the Modi government did not participate, did not cooperate in fact-finding of Pegasus?
But
you are saying there is no conclusive
Supriya,
evidence, which means that there is room for error, which means there is room for doubt.
It is also equally true
what you're doing
that
right now is
there were about 20 odd
democracy,
opposition leaders who were asked by the Supreme Court, not by the central government, not by the CBI, not by ED, but by the Supreme Court to submit their phones, and Shehzad is here with us in the studios.
No. 1 second.
Who were asked to submit their phones. 1 second, Supriya, 1 second. And none of them did, which is fair enough. I don't begrudge them. What I'm asking is very simple. One second.
Yeah.
You cannot on the one hand say, I have the spyware on my phone, and the same people who you are alleging are snooping through the spyware on your phone are calling you up and saying, oh, by the way, be careful about what you're saying on your phone. And most importantly, Shehzad Poonawala, it's not the central government or any central government agency that asks for these phones. It's the Supreme Court that asks for these phones. And for whatever reason, the opposition leaders, including Mr. Gandhi, chose not to give those phones to the Supreme Court. Now, after which the court came up with a verdict that there is no substantive merit to the allegation that there is spyware on their phones. I mean, I wouldn't blame the courts because they'd had no material before them to examine.
Look, Zaka, one is the rantings and ramblings of a politically immature and politically becoming irrelevant entity like Rahul Gandhi, who chooses an opportunity when India is being celebrated by the world, being called the bright spot in the economy. G20 meetings are happening. We are holding the G20 presidency at a time in Britain, an Indian origin person is leading their democracy and country. A person who is an Indian MP goes on the same soil of Britain and berates Bharat. And look, this has been a long-standing history of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. You can have as much problem with Modi, you can have as much problem with Shehzad Poonawala and with the BJP, no problem. Supriya, courtesy and democracy that you are bandwagoning about demands that you at least pipe down and hear the other side. This is the basic you can do. You didn't do it as an anchor. At least you should do it as a panelist. This is not your show. Thank you.
One second.
I did not interrupt her. She rambled on.
Let's refrain from personal attacks. Let's go on to the.
She's interrupting and heckling, and this is how the Congress has behaved.
Let's get to the merit of the argument.
Look, there is a long-standing history of Rahul Gandhi being a serial offender at this. He can abuse Prime Minister Modi and the BJP, but he goes on Hamburg soil and says Indian culture is to blame. He goes and says China ने भारत के सेना की पिटाई कर दी. He asked Nicholas Byrne to intervene in Indian democracy. This is the level to which he takes his Vyakti Virod to Desh Virod. That's point number one. Now, point number two is the hypocrisy of it. You can't have conditional commitment to constitution and democracy, Zaka. You can't say that yesterday I will go and do a press conference in the Supreme Court hailing the verdict of the Supreme Court on two matters, but the same Supreme Court, when it rules on Pegasus, I will reject it. The same Supreme Court, when it rules on Ram Mandir, I will reject it. I will say it's motivated. When I win an election in Himachal, it's all good. But when I lose an election in the Northeast, it's all bad. If I win an election in Pune, it's good. But if I lose the entire Northeast, it's bad.
Let
me come to the last point. I'll complete very quickly.
Give me 10 seconds.
But you give me an opportunity.
I want to know what Supriya and the Congress and other opposition parties are saying is Mr. Modi does the same thing when he's on foreign soil.
Let me now articulate.
He attacks the Congress. So if it's good for the geese, it should be good for the gander.
The question is that when Mr. Modi articulated certain positions, those were positions steeped in fact and not in hypocrisy. And let me give you an example of that.
It's on foreign soil.
That's not the point.
Like,
we don't have a problem with...
You don't have a problem with Rahul Gandhi attacking the government from foreign soil.
Look, India is a culture. Perhaps Rahul Gandhi may believe in other traditions, but Indian tradition has been to even discuss the Vedas openly and have as much democratic discussion on the Vedas.
So look, Zaka, let me articulate. What I want to know,
Zaka, if you interrupt the audience,
give me 10 seconds. What I want to know is, do you have a problem with the merits?
Articulating that. Just give me 30 seconds. I'll answer that.
With the merits of Rahul Gandhi's arguments, or the fact that he's saying this on foreign soil? That's
now
what I
let
want
me
to know.
articulate in 35 seconds, uninterrupted. If Rahul Gandhi articulated a point of fact, whether he does it in India, in Parliament, or outside Parliament, or on foreign soil, doesn't matter. But Rahul
Okay.
Gandhi comes from a position of hypocrisy and lies, and let me articulate that in 30 seconds. Rahul Gandhi says minorities are under attack. This is a party. Now, please, this can't go on like this.
Supriya, one second. Supriya,
Zaka,
one
this
second.
is
Supriya, one
imminently
second. Let him
unfair.
finish.
I have
I'll
not
come
got
back
one
to you.
chance to
I'll come back to you.
articulate.
Give him 30 seconds, and then I'll come back to you. Yeah. Okay, go
You
on.
know,
Go on.
my entire
okay.
discourse has been
I'm very clear
interrupted
now. You
15
said
times.
it. You said it that you don't have a problem.
But the audiences have not understood because I've been interrupted so many times.
No, one second. So you're clear that your problem is not so much with Rahul Gandhi saying it on foreign soil. Your problem is with Rahul Gandhi saying what he's saying. Okay, go on.
Now,
30
let me
seconds.
explain, and please do not interrupt
Yeah.
me. The audiences don't understand.
Yes.
So, Rahul Gandhi comes from a position where he says the minorities are under attack in this country at a time when his party has been reduced to 8 seats out of 180 in the Northeast, which is predominantly minority and tribal based. They don't have a government in Goa. We do. And we have 5 times the number of seats. The people have trusted their mandate that Madhav and Mohammed and Mohit, all of them, and including some other persons have got all the benefits from Modi schemes. Sandra and Sunita have got benefit from Modi schemes. They have trusted our governments, and a party which has given 1984, a party which has given Mumbai riots, Ahmedabad, Jalgaon, Nelli, Hashimpura, Bhagalpur, Meerut, Maliana, all of these riots, gone and tied up with the Uddhav Sena, which they accused of the Mumbai riots, comes and lectures people about minority rights.
One second.
Now, point number 2.
One second.
Zaka, please let me complete.
You asked for 30 seconds, I gave you 30 seconds.
No, Zaka, there's a more fundamental point.
I'll come back to you. Let me ask Sanjay Jha.
Absolutely unfair.
No, one second. Supriya, one second. I came to you first. I gave you enough time. I went to Shehzad. I
And she
gave him enough
continuously
time.
interrupted me, which was absolutely unfair.
Let me ask Sanjay Jha. Now, there are two things. Shehzad has said the issue is not that Rahul Gandhi is attacking Mr. Modi from foreign soil. That's not, so much the merit of the argument. The merit of the argument is you cannot, on the one hand, say Mr. Modi's government is anti-minority, anti-this, anti-that, and yet in Meghalaya, which is 70% minority, 70% Christian, they have voted overwhelmingly for Mr. Modi and his alliance partners. In Nagaland, which is 80% Christian, they have voted overwhelmingly for Mr. Modi and his alliance partners. And he said this in his speech yesterday, that, the same thing is going to happen in Kerala. So this whole narrative that the BJP and Mr. Modi are anti-minority certainly doesn't seem to have cut ice with the people of Nagaland or with the people of Meghalaya.
Oh, well, Zaka, I'm glad we are having this conversation. I think Mr. Modi's government just needs to tell the people of India why there is not a single Muslim member of parliament in the BJP. And why, since I heard one spokesperson talk about Indian tradition and culture, since when did lynching and mass, hacking of people from the minorities become part of India's sanskar and sanskriti? I would love to know that. But see, Zaka, this is a serious conversation. This is the 9th year of Mr. Modi being the Prime Minister. And you are a seasoned veteran. You know that and I know it. Can you imagine the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy who does not have the courage of his own convictions to hold a press conference and take questions from you, Rajdeep, any other journalist in the country? I mean, if you ask me, that's cowardice of the highest level. What is he so scared of, right? These are the questions that people will ask him, and he will need a teleprompter, which unfortunately in a live press conference you may not have.
Sanjay, I'm sorry. I really don't like interrupting my guests, but I don't think you're answering my question. I'm asking you a very simple question. If Meghalaya with 70% Christian population and Nagaland with 80% Christian population is voting for, and I'm not saying that they're voting directly for the BJP, they're voting for the NDPP, they're voting for the NPP, and these parties have allied with the BJP, then you cannot say that it's an anti-minority party. Please give me a cogent argument against that.
Zaka, let me tell you, why don't you look at the data of minority voting in Uttar Pradesh, in Maharashtra, in Karnataka? You'll get your answer. Look at Kerala. I mean, let's not do selective cherry picking here. This is not just an authoritarian government. Therefore, I want to make this point before it moves on. I want to make 2 points very clearly to you, Zaka. Number one, this is, when we say mother of democracy, I feel like I could choke on that. This is the murder of democracy. I think there's a typo. It's a misnomer to call it a mother of democracy. Number two, at a time when the world is talking about the entire meltdown of the Adani empire and the proximity of the Prime Minister, if it was a democracy, Mr. Modi had to answer in Parliament. He ducked it. The popular Bollywood song, "Aaj ta aajkal tere mere pyar ke charche har zaban par," सबको मालूम है और सबको खबर हो गई है, applies to Mr. Modi and Mr.
But
Adani.
Sanjay,
And Mr.
the
Modi
proof of the
is
pudding,
justified. Why?
Sanjay, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And the eating happened yesterday, even as these results were coming out. The Supreme Court ruled that SEBI should have a full and fair investigation against this corporate entity, and they formed a committee to look into it. So I don't know what is the hindrance here. But anyway, I want to go to Kailash. Kailash has been waiting. One second. Supriya, I'm coming back to you. Kailash, I want to ask a very, very simple question. I don't think you can, go hammer and tongs against Rahul Gandhi saying, oh, he said this in London, and he said this in Argentina, and he said this in America. He's an opposition leader. He's going to say what he's going to say. What I do have a problem with is him saying that, oh, there's Pegasus on my phone. Fair enough. If there is Pegasus on your phone, the Supreme Court, no less, not the government of India, not the CBI, not the CBC, not the ED, IT, agencies that you feel are bequeathed to the central government. But the Supreme Court said, okay, go ahead and submit your phones. Let's see if this spyware is on your phone. And none of them, not just Mr. Gandhi, but none of them submitted their phones to the court-monitored inquiry. And so the court came to the conclusion that we don't have any reason to believe that there is a spyware on the phones of these opposition leaders. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can either say, okay, there is spyware on my phone, I'm going to submit to the law of the land, I'm going to submit to the highest court of this land, or you just have to accept that, this is what it is. Mr. Gandhi, I guess, is neither wanting to give his phone to the Supreme Court, nor is he willing to let go of this narrative that there is this spyware on his phone.
Zaka, firstly, I'd like to say that you mentioned that he's a leader of opposition or a member of opposition, and he has that is why what he said was that he's an Indian and he's a member of parliament. As an Indian, I feel I'm put to shame when my member of parliament, when my fellow Indian talks ill about my country on a foreign land. And what are the issues that he talked about? He's talking that the manufacturing is slipping in India and US. I mean, for the last 5 months, India is showing a record high GST collections. India is considered as a bright spot in the globally looking gloomy scenario, as my colleague and friend Shahzad Poonawala said, and that is recorded. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are saying that the Indian GDP is forecasted to grow at 5.5%, which is much higher than China. And you're saying things about China, that the entire business from India shifted to China, whereas every day it is documented, Zaka, that business from China is shifting to India. I mean, you call it the Vedanta Foxconn plant or any other plant, even Apple considering of manufacturing or the PLI scheme of the government.
And what is
Mr. Gandhi talking about?
Kailash. How is Rahul Gandhi's attacks on foreign soil or what have you any different from Mr. Modi's attacks on the Congress party on foreign soil?
Is that question to me, Zaka?
Yeah. Kailash, yeah. Yes, Kailash.
The question is to me?
Yeah, to you, Kailash, yes. Okay, I think there's an audio problem. Yeah,
again, let me articulate the position. Okay. Mr. Modi expressed fact. We were fragile 5 economy. It was a scam, a week that was taking place. India was being characterized by the global audience as a scam India, not a startup India as it is being characterized today. So one is rooted in fact, one is rooted in fiction. And look at the hypocrisy of Rahul. Let me make 2 points very clear. This is a Rahul Gandhi who has the DNA of emergency, whose family virtually did the super sessions in the Supreme Court, allowed A&A to become the Chief Justice, had judges like Baharul Islam and judges like Beg take over, and then they were made MPs one day, then they were judges the other day. They manipulated the Election Commission and had somebody like Naveen Chawla, against whom a sitting CEC wrote a letter, and they come and preach to us as if they are the best people to uphold democracy in this country.
Secondly, the same accusation can be made against your government. Mr. Gogoi was the head of the bench that gave the Ram Mandir verdict, and then he was made an
Thank you, Zaka, for bringing up precisely that example.
Yeah.
And who was hailing Ranjan Gogoi when he was part of the 4 judges? They called him as the enigma of integrity, and the moment he gives the Ram Mandir judgment, they turn over. And now let me make one more point.
Okay.
Mr. Jha is wrong on fact. First of all, Mr. Jha, you are the worst victim of Congress's so-called democracy. But having said that, there is a Muslim MP, and that is Mr. Ghulam Ali. But all Muslims are not the only minorities in this country. The fact of the matter is that Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, Christians are also considered to be minorities. This is your problem. From 1980s onwards, the Congress party, after Mr. Antule, has not had a Muslim chief in Minister or any Muslim president in the Congress party for the last 5 decades, but that is not a problem for you. The Congress party, one second, let me articulate this position, very important position. What has the Congress party done for Muslims? You called Uddhav Sena the murderers of Muslim in Mumbai. You had the Sri Krishna report, and now you are in alliance with them, and suddenly they are secular. Sanjay, at least as a Mumbaikar, please tell Supriya Shrinate what you used to talk about Uddhav Sena.
No, one second. One second. I think we're diverging from the topic.
Because
one second. I want to go back to Supriya Shrinate, and I want to ask her a very, very simple question. You may agree or disagree about criticizing the Indian government on foreign soil. I don't think that's so much of an issue. The issue is the merit of the arguments. If Mr. Gandhi feels so strongly...
firstly...
One second, Supriya, hear my question out, please. Give me 30 seconds. If Mr. Gandhi feels so strongly about the fact that his phone is being spied on and that other opposition leaders, their phones are being spied on, then you had recourse from no less than the Supreme Court of India, right? The court said, please submit your phones, let them investigate it, and let them find out if there is indeed the spyware. None of the opposition leaders, I'm not blaming Mr. Gandhi, but none of the opposition leaders submitted their phones. Now, you can't have it both ways. On the one hand, you say you're being spied on, and yet when the Supreme Court, no less, asks for your phone, they say, no, we don't want to give it. So what other judgment do you expect from the court? The court then came to the conclusion that we don't have evidence to believe that the phones of opposition leaders are being spied on.
Your question was 50 seconds long. I hope I will have enough time, if not more, to answer that question.
Yeah.
Firstly, you are wrong, and actually you are liable to contempt of court because you're constantly misquoting the highest court of this land. No, the court did not say that there was no spyware. The court says it's inconclusive because the chosen government of the day did not cooperate. You are misquoting the Supreme Court judgment.
You should be the last person quoting the Supreme Court with what Rahul Gandhi said about Chaukidar Chor hai.
Don't speak in between.
Madam, stop threatening news anchors and stop threatening contempt of court. It is not a tool for you to use to bully anchors. This is your Loktantric spirit
There's no point
in absolute manifestation.
You can have a private tete-a-tete with him because that's what you were having up until now. And the moment I begin to speak,
Supriya, stop displaying this great sense of entitlement and intolerance. For Pete's sake, for Pete's sake, stop your entitlement and your intolerance. It makes you look extremely bad on television.
Okay, Supriya, go on. Okay. Let's come back. Let's come back to the merit of the matter. Yeah. Let's come back to the merit of the matter. Yeah. Let's come back to the merit of the case. Yes.
I am back on the matter now. Listen to me.
Yes.
Just putting the record straight.
Yeah.
This half-baked economic knowledge on your show is very dangerous.
What is the
India's
half-baked economic knowledge?
Contracted for 2 straight quarters. In fact, our GDP is down to 4.4%. India's trade deficit with China is $100 billion. I don't know who are these people dreaming about.
What has that got to do with what Mr. Gandhi said in Cambridge?
No, Mr. Gandhi spoke about it. Maybe you did not hear the 1 hour-long visiting fellow's lecture to Cambridge. Hear that lecture and then have a debate with me. You did not hear the lecture.
Supriya, what has that got to do with what Mr. Gandhi said in Cambridge? Mr. Gandhi said... Okay, go on. Okay, go on. Go on. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. I'm all ears for you. Go ahead.
If you want to do this debate with
Go ahead. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. I'm quiet.
You can get whoever else you want.
You.
I'm sorry. This is not how it's going to work. I am quoting from his lecture. You should actually go and hear it instead of debating.
So tell me.
Without hearing the lecture.
So tell me. So tell me, Supriya, what did he say? Tell me.
He is absolutely right about democratic institutions in this country being trampled over. What has the Supreme Court said yesterday? We are constantly quoting the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court tells a democratically elected government that election commission cannot be run according to your whims and fancies. They have used words like insatiable thirst to be in power. They're showing a mirror to Mr. Modi and his minions. Do you not realize that?
Okay, can I ask you a question? No, can I ask you a question? Fair enough. That story, Supriya, that story we reported on. We had debates on primetime television about that story. But can I ask you a simple question? Does any of that take away from the fact that your party has been reduced to 0 seats in Nagaland, 5 seats in Meghalaya, and 0 seats in Tripura?
No, actually,
what are you talking about?
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. You go and see the vote share of 2018 to 2023 for the BJP in Nagaland, in Meghalaya, and in Tripura. It's gone down. actually winning a seat which was with the BJP for 33 long years in Maharashtra
Supriya,
is a big victory,
Supriya,
irrespective of what
you
they're
know,
doing to our
forget
alliance
about
partner.
forget about
Storming
we
into the
used to
West
be
Bengal Assembly
forget
after
about
51
forget about we
years
used to
is
be
big
in the same
also.
profession. I have great regard and respect for you.
No, I have
but,
no regard for you
yeah,
or for the journalism
you know,
that we are doing today.
the sad part is this is the reality. This is the fact that your party was 21 seats.
And what your channel is putting out.
Your party was 21 seats. Look, I have no biases here. I'm just stating facts, okay? I'm just stating facts. In Meghalaya, one second, hear me out. One second, just give me 10 seconds. Supriya, give me 10 seconds. Forget about you hearing me out. At least let the viewers know this, right? These are facts. I'm not making this up. When the 2018 Meghalaya election happened, Congress was the single largest party. It had 21 MLAs. Yes. In yesterday's results, Congress came down from 21 to just 5. Okay? 12 of your 21 MLAs went to the TMC. The TMC again ended up with 5. Whatever, I'm not getting into all of that. All I'm saying, it's a very, very simple fact that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the Congress used to be the fulcrum of the national fulcrum, if you will, in the northeast, in states like Nagaland and Meghalaya and Tripura. Today it is not. Not only is it not a fulcrum, it's been reduced to single digits. Now, you can go on and on about Mr. Modi stifling democracy and Mr. Modi going after, independent institutions. All of that is par for course. I'm not going to, throw a spanner in your works. But I'm not sure that explains how your party went from 21 seats to 5 seats in 5 years. I mean, that is something you need to figure out. That is something you need to ponder about. And that is something you need to fix. It is not something that Zaka Jacob can fix. It is something that Supriya and your leaders have to fix. Right?
Zaka, if I may, very quickly.
You know,
in the last now, Supriya, please pipe down. Please have respect for other people speaking. Thank you very much. You've been reduced to irrelevance anyways, and the people are consigning you to the dustbins of history. Now, the BJP was 1.5% prior to 2018 in Tripura. Today, we are at nearly 40%. In Nagaland, in Meghalaya, there's a growth story that's happening in the BJP. But that's not the point. The point is, look at the hypocrisy of Supriya Shinit. Not does she not listen and displays intolerant behavior on television shows, but look, when the court says something about one verdict, they take that wholesale, but when the same court say that triple talaq should be banned and there should be a law, they will say it's a communal project. When the same court says that, look, we will not give relief to Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, they have to face the trial in the national level case, they will not believe it. When the same court says no to Manish Sisodia getting relief, or the same court denies Satyendra Jain relief, they say no, the agencies are being misused. How is it that some verdicts are communal verdicts and some verdicts are secular verdicts? Some victories are communal victories, some victories are secular victories. This kind of double standards is what we are calling out.
Okay, Supriya, respond. Okay, Supriya, respond.
I am putting it on record here. I'm extremely disappointed with the way the show has been conducted.
Your view doesn't matter.
One second.
It is water off a duck's back. You think Zaka cares about your opinion on this show?
One second.
What do you think you are?
One second, Supriya.
I mean, is she serious to give certificates?
Supriya, okay, go ahead. Supriya, go ahead. Okay, yeah. I'm listening.
I'm extremely touched by your concern, but I wish similar concern was shown by somebody like you. I understand your ownership may have issues, I understand.
I didn't say any of that, what you heard in the last 10 seconds. Shehzad said. Go on.
I'm just going to tell you. The reality is that the Prime Minister of this country speaks for 2 hours and 40 minutes in both houses of Parliament. Mr. Gandhi has asked him pointed questions on Adani. He does not have the courage to name Adani. He keeps sipping water. His hands are trembling. What sort of body language is that? You really want to do a debate? Let's do a debate. You really want to do a debate? How has LIC's investment turned negative and not a squeak from the central government? You want to now blame the Supreme Court for setting up a committee and everybody should keep quiet because the matter is sub judice.
Okay.
Too bad it is. But we are going to ask why investor money is going down the drain. How come you're not asking that question? How come CNBC is not asking that question?
No, it's fair enough. No, one second. I want to be, one second. Give me 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds. I want to be very, very clear about this tonight. CNN News 18 has done multiple shows, not just my show, and I can speak as the editor of this channel. We have done multiple shows on the Adani fiasco when it happened, and we have asked the questions that need to be asked. Number one. Number two. And I've said this time and time again. yes, Mr. Adani's group companies and their stocks falling by a half or by 2/3 or whatever they've fallen by is entirely something that investors of his company need to be worried about. It is something that the government needs to answer. It's something that SEBI needs to clarify. All of that, absolutely powerful. Of course, we've done this. I'm happy to send you. I'm happy to send you recordings of those shows that we did. But, 1 second, but, Supriya, the public interface or the public loss in this entire fiasco, as has been clarified by the chairman of SBI and LIC, is less than 1% of their exposure. That is for those people to figure out. That is for those people to figure out. That is not lost to the exchequer.
Now let me just come in for 10 seconds. Let me come in for 10 seconds. Supriya, by the way, the finance secretary, the finance minister, the RBI and the SBI, all of them, including the LIC chairperson, spoke about the Adani issue. But having said that, since you are so confident about Adani's misgivings, have you cancelled the projects of Adani in Rajasthan? Have you cancelled the projects of Adani that you gave in Punjab? Are you regretting the fact that UPA gave 6 SEZs to Adani? Did you regret the fact that in 1988 and the 1980s, it was the Rajiv Gandhi government that gave the break to Adani? So please stop playing this hypocritical card. You gave the Diggy port while you were in MBA to Adani. Okay. You gave the Virinium port, or at least the left parties gave it to them. And Shashi Tharoor was a part of it. Stop being so hypocritical.
I have to wrap up. Supriya, 30 seconds. I really have to. I'm completely out of time. 30 seconds, yeah.
I don't think I'm going to answer questions from somebody who masquerades as a spokesperson. Actually, he's regime. I'm not going to answer any
journalist and then went
okay, guys, come on, guys, please. I plead. No
certificates to nobody, Supriya.
I plead with both of you. Please, let's not have personal attacks. I am completely out of time. On the merits of the matter, I keep coming back to this. Look, if Mr. Gandhi believes, and as has been articulated by him in Cambridge, that his phone is filled with spyware, then let him please produce that with investigating agencies. Let him please produce that before the Supreme Court. Let's come to the bottom of this. Let's find out if indeed the government is spying on opposition leaders. And if it is, then the nation, has a right to know. But you can't have it on the one side making these accusations and two on the other side not submitting to the requests of the Supreme Court, because then it does just not add up. I'm going to thank all my guests. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back to the other side, it's going to be an exclusive interview. Bill Gates, the founder, CEO of Microsoft, he's absolutely impressed by ChatGPT. He says it is the most exciting thing that he has seen in the last 30 years. He says metaverse is great, but it may not be revolutionary. He says his verdict on Elon Musk and Twitter, all of that and more. It's a completely, fully newsy interview coming up right on the other side with the Microsoft co-founder and the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, right on the other side. Intention was that judicial